Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a frankly fascinating leap in biotechnology, something that could completely redefine what ends up on our dinner plates. We are talking about lab-grown meat. Let's look directly at the research and see exactly how scientists are turning what used to be science fiction into literal reality.
Now, the absolutely crucial point to understand right off the bat is that we are not talking about plant-based alternatives here. No soy, no pea protein. Lab-grown meat, which is also called cultured or cell-based meat, is actual biological meat. But instead of raising an entire animal just to slaughter it, this meat is produced by culturing animal cells in a highly controlled, nutrient-rich lab environment. In there, they multiply and develop into the exact same muscle and fat tissues you'd find in traditional livestock. It's wild, right?
So here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the future of meat, then the biological recipe, followed by the molecular science. After that, we'll ask why change our menu, look at the hurdles to the plate, and finally explore what's next for food.
Okay, Section 1. The future of meat, reimagining agriculture.
The foundation of this entire field is something called cellular agriculture. It sits right at this perfect intersection of three highly advanced scientific disciplines. We've got stem cell technology, tissue engineering, and bioprocess engineering. Basically, this whole process relies entirely on the incredible natural ability of animal cells to just divide, multiply, and form structures. By taking these basic principles of cell biology and applying them to modern biotech, scientists can actually coax microscopic cells into forming the complex, meat-like structures we're so used to eating.
Moving on to Section 2, the biological recipe, from cell to sausage.
So how do they actually do it? Well, this incredible process happens across 5 distinct steps. First up is cell collection, where a tiny, completely harmless sample of cells is taken from a living animal. Second is cell culture. They take those cells and place them in a nutrient-rich medium so they multiply rapidly. Third, we trigger cell differentiation, basically stimulating those generic cells to become specific things, like muscle or fat. Step 4 is tissue formation, where those cells grow on structural scaffolds. And finally, Step 5 is harvesting and processing those tissues into familiar shapes, your burgers, nuggets, or sausages. Now, when it comes to picking the ingredients for that very first step, scientists have a couple of options. They can use satellite cells. These are natural muscle stem cells already found in animals, so they're perfectly primed to just go ahead and create muscle tissue. Or, on the flip side, they can use what are called iPSCs, which stands for induced pluripotent stem cells. These are essentially artificially reprogrammed cells that act like a blank slate. They have this incredible ability to produce multiple different types of cells, whether that's muscle, fat, or even connective tissue.
Once we actually have the cells, they need a good environment to thrive, which requires 3 essential components. First, a nutrient-rich medium. Think of this as a broth packed with amino acids, sugars, minerals, and vitamins that literally feeds the cells. Second, they need scaffolds. If you just let cells grow on their own, you'd basically get a mushy paste. So scaffolds, which are made from plant, collagen, or synthetic biomaterials, give the cells a 3D structure to latch onto so they form actual recognizable tissue. And third, all of this magic happens inside advanced bioreactors, which meticulously control the temperature, oxygen, nutrients, and pH levels. It's kind of like brewing beer, but for meat.
All right, Section 3, the molecular science, engineering the perfect bite.
Now, behind those giant stainless steel bioreactors, molecular biology is really the invisible engine driving all of this. Scientists aren't just, crossing their fingers and hoping the cells turn out right. Not at all. They are deeply involved in optimizing gene expression and cellular differentiation, meaning they can precisely control how a generic stem cell develops into the perfect mouth-watering ratio of fat and muscle to create the exact flavor profile we expect.
At the absolute core of this is analyzing the genetic instructions locked within the cells. Researchers spend an immense amount of time characterizing stem cells to understand their exact potential. They run gene expression analysis to see exactly how these cells react to different environments. This ensures they can reliably and efficiently develop into the specific types of fat and muscle tissues needed to actually sustain our food supply.
So as you can see, lab-grown meat isn't just one single technology. It's honestly a symphony of them. Stem cell technology is what makes tissue production possible in the first place. Then, cell culture technology inside those advanced bioreactors allows for the sheer volume of large-scale growth. Genetic engineering might be brought in to improve cell production and nutritional properties. And finally, bioprocess engineering strictly manages those exact growth conditions. Combining all these disciplines gives us precise control over the final product.
Section 4. Why change our menu?
Let's look at the global impact.
The environmental and ethical benefits outlined in the research here are frankly staggering. Cultured meat could mean drastically reduced agricultural land use because we wouldn't need massive fields for livestock or their feed anymore. It also means significantly lower water consumption and a major decrease in greenhouse gas emissions, really taking the pressure off our fragile ecosystems. And ethically, it entirely eliminates the need for animal slaughter since all we need is a harmless cell sample to kickstart production.
But hey, the benefits aren't just global, they get deeply personal too. Because the production is entirely controlled, we have this amazing potential for customized nutrition. Just imagine a lab-grown burger engineered specifically to have a healthier fat composition or even infused with added nutrients. Plus, because it's grown in a completely sterile lab environment, there's a massive reduction in contamination risks. Oh, and it can be produced entirely without the use of antibiotics, which is a huge win for global public health.
Section 5. Hurdles to the plate. Time for the reality check.
Right, so it's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If the science is so incredibly sound and the environmental and health benefits are this clear, what exactly is keeping cultured meat out of our local grocery stores and favorite restaurants right now? Well, looking at the current data, the barriers are definitely significant. First and foremost, money. Large-scale production is still extremely expensive. Producing this meat requires highly advanced bioreactors, and scaling those up to feed millions of people is a massive engineering challenge. On top of that, the traditional nutrient broth, that cell culture media we talked about, is notoriously expensive. And finally, creating the exact complex structure, texture, and flavor of a traditional steak or chicken breast remains a huge scientific hurdle. I mean, it's pretty easy to make a mushy nugget. It's incredibly hard to replicate a perfectly marbled ribeye.
Our final section, Section 6, What's Next for Food? The Future of Cellular Agriculture.
To actually get this technology onto our plates, researchers are intensely focused on overcoming these exact hurdles. A massive priority right now is developing affordable alternatives to traditional cell culture media to really drive those costs down. Simultaneously, engineers are working around the clock on scaling up advanced bioreactor technology to handle large-scale food production. Meanwhile, food scientists are heavily focused on tackling the complex problem of perfectly replicating the texture and structure of conventional meat.
Ultimately, cultured meat represents a monumental leap in biotechnology. It's this perfect synthesis of cell biology, tissue engineering, and food science, all aimed at creating a truly sustainable food system for our future. We've explored the incredible science making it possible today, and the very real hurdles it still faces. But at the end of the day, public perception and consumer acceptance is the final and perhaps largest hurdle of all. So, I'll leave you with this. Now that you understand exactly how the science works, when it finally hits the shelves, would you take a bite?